Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Hello, everybody. I'm Edy Liongosari. I'm the Chief Research Scientist of Accenture, joining you from San Jose, California. Accenture has been an IC member from the very beginning, since it was founded in 2014. And I'm currently the co-chair of the Thought Leadership Task Group and also the co-editor of IC Journal of Innovation. And thank you for joining me in this talk, and thank you to IC for giving me this opportunity to talk about digital transformation. For the past 20 years, Accenture has been publishing its technology vision annually, with the goal to help its clients decipher the accelerating technology changes, what business opportunity they provide, as well as the threat and risk that may arise. The latest one on Metaverse was just published a few weeks ago, which you can actually download by searching Accenture Technology Vision. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is that in 2013, almost a decade ago, we published one with the theme, Every Business is a Digital Business. Yes, that's right, every business. It doesn't matter whether you're an aircraft manufacturer or in pizza delivery business, you are a digital business. Imagine the pushback from our clients at that time. They say, I'm in meat processing business. What do you think? I'm actually a digital business? And our answer is, yes, you need to be. You may not realize it just yet. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, right? Many of the things that we described in that publication are now considered as something that we expect in today's business. So for example, when I order a pizza online, not only I need to know when I can expect to get it, but where is it at any one moment, who to put it together, what was it placed in the oven, if it is delivered, where's the delivery person at this very moment. So this is actually the whole kind of new customer experience that digital business we can expect today. But 10 years ago, that was actually met with healthy dose of skepticism. So today, transforming to a digital business is no longer a nice to have. In many cases, it's a matter of survival, from how to enable my workforce to work remotely, to creating market competitive product and services. And even before the pandemic, digital transformation has been estimated to create a net benefits over $100 trillion. That's with T. And not just for business themselves, but also for the society. And one key component of that is a significant reduction of carbon dioxide emission, which obviously is welcome. And this actually covers from the consumer to automotive to utility. Now, the past 2 years with the pandemic have accelerated digital transformation. And you really do not need to go very far to see that. Just look at your neighborhood's restaurant. To survive through the pandemic, these businesses, which arguably the last one to embrace digital transformation in a normal situation, will have to be able to receive and fulfill order digitally. The normal foot traffic has all dried up. To survive, they need to be able to stand and advertise their business quickly. Many of them have to work and integrate their services with new partners that they never heard of, like the DoorDash or Uber Eats, which is not a small matter, especially for moms and pop business. So it is not a surprise that 27% of global consumers started to shop online for the very first time due to the pandemic. And the number of remote workers grew by 400%. I think this number is actually relatively small. I think it's actually sort of a lot bigger than that. But really, the interesting part of all of this is actually the certain spot, like telehealth, that took a serious uptake. So prior to the pandemic, this is an area that was met with skepticism, right? Doctors would like to see their patients physically, which is understandable if it is a choice. This is a practice that have actually sort of ingrained into the entire industry. The infrastructure and the procedure for doctors, patients to interact almost change overnight, right? Pandemic forced them to happen. At the height of the pandemic, people avoiding going to doctor or hospital together unless they are in dire situation. And telehealth provide that middle ground, allowing the doctors to interact with the patient safely. But now, here's actually the interesting part, that once the infrastructure and the process are in place, and the people, right, the doctors and nurses are trained to handle all the remote patient experience, and the patient themselves actually have gone through that process, it is expected that this whole telehealth process and the areas that they are touching on will continue to grow for foreseeable future, way after the pandemic. And all of this caused the acceleration of technology adoption. It is estimated an average, say, cloud migration has accelerated by 2,400%. So there's a significant change there. Regardless of pandemic, and digital transformation yielded many benefits, right? Like the one we listed down here. Just to bring this alive, I'd like to share with you two stories to show the benefits of digital transformation. One centered around customer experiences, and the other one is on new product and service and how to manage global supply chain crisis. So the first one, it's Carnival Corporation. I don't know about you, but after being locked down for 2 years, I'm ready to go out and explore. Some people drive, fly, but for me, the best way is a cruise. I don't think Carnival requires much introduction. They are the largest cruise operator in the world with 100 plus vessels across 9 brands. Each vessel can carry about 2,000 to 7,000 passengers. And so it's actually, each of them actually is a small floating city in itself. Prior to the pandemic, Carnival served roughly about 13 million passengers across all their 2 lines a year. Now, imagine when you have thousands of people on board. For an operator, that takes an incredible amount of effort to ensure everything goes smoothly, day after day, cruise after cruise, from boarding to entertainment to dining, making sure it is relatively distributed. No one place is too crowded, while others are underutilized. One key challenge is the waiting line. Whether you will be waiting to be boarded, going through your turn to dine or to go to show. So in 2014, Carnival embarked in a multi-year journey to completely rethink their customer experience. Now, at the core of this experience is a wearable device called Ocean Medallion, which is really a combination of RFID, NFT, low-power Bluetooth, and other technologies. And it is actually provided to the passenger prior to their journey. And that's actually very important because they want to have that cohesive experience from the very beginning to the end. Now, these devices is augmented with sensors. And they are all installed throughout the ship. There are 7,000 sensors per ship. Each ship also has 4,000 interactive kiosks, and they are augmented by mobile app accessible from the passenger's smartphone. So 4 pieces of technology plus the supporting infrastructure, really the key components of what they call ocean-ready services. So let's actually sort of see how all this come together. I'm going to play a video here now. Hopefully you can see all the So what the video shows you are some base services, such as unlocking the rooms, paying for products and services throughout the ship, finding places and people, especially kids, where they are throughout the whole ship, right? And allowing your food, drink services to be delivered wherever you are in the ship. But what again you don't see is the intelligence behind the scene. The customer location, timing, and activities provided tremendous insight and how I get to create a best customer experience. The system can learn customer behavior patterns, like are they early risers? Are they late owls? Do they like light lunch or heavy lunch? Or do they even have lunch at all? What type of drinks they like to accompany their food? Do they prefer individual activities or group activities? For the latter, what are people with common interests that they can actually be grouped with? In fact, the system can recommend their itinerary for the day, where to eat, spend time based on the crowd level, availability, and their preferences. And for businesses, right? Such intelligent system can improve supply chain by having a better understanding what should be brought on board. For cruise, this is actually very key. The employees also provided with tools with like facial recognition for frictionless boarding process that reduce waiting time by 90%. Or providing medical information such as specific allergy and who to contact when there's a medical emergency. With the pandemic, the Medallion is provided to all crews as well, in addition to the to the passengers. This is to enable social distancing, contact tracing, managing max occupancy of any one place based on the local rules and regulation. So let's actually hear from the Carnival Chief Experience and Innovation Officer on the impact of this Medallion class experience.
Corporation is the world's largest experience enterprise. We have over 100 ships spanning 9 brands, sailing to over 740 destinations, trains, motor coaches, lodges spread across Alaska, ports, port of calls, and private islands. The Ocean Medallion is essentially a communication device, and the Ocean Medallion connects the guests persistently to the ship or any of our experience environments all the time, 100% of the time. So it allows every guest on vacation to be a part of an ecosystem that we leverage to maximize that guest experience. And the strategy was to create more personalized vacations that are more simple and immersive. Focus is to make sure those human interactions are special, and we give our team members and crew members the latitude to create special moments with each and every guest so that personalization is genuine, not programmatic or systematic. So when you think about a cruise ship at scale with over 3,000 guests and a couple thousand crew members, to be able to deliver personalization that could previously only be delivered at a small scale on some of the small yacht class cruise ships, you've just created value. And that's the secret, kind of not so secret, behind the Ocean Medallion, which is by connecting you as an individual to us in our experience platform, we can deliver on your needs, wants, and desires without you even having to ask. And we think that surprise and delight, that persistent focus, is a huge game changer.
Okay, so are you excited? You feel like going to cruise now? I know I am. So here's just a few pictures that taken in cruises just a few weeks ago. So what started as an effort to rethink about customer experience now become a key business capability for these cruise ships to survive and thrive in their new normal. Now, my next story is a shorter one. It is about managing supply chain. So one of the challenges with the pandemic and now with the war in Ukraine is a massive disruption in supply chain. Russia and Ukraine, for example, together account for 29% of wheat sales globally, and they export 12% of calories traded worldwide. These are all disrupted. We are currently experiencing serious shortage across a wide range of materials, from automotive parts to cooking ingredients that we take for granted, like wheat and palm oil. And these shortages continue to fluctuate, and it is hard for many organizations to sustainably manage their supply chain, especially for the smaller companies, where they don't have enough muscle to fight for their fair share for supplies or enough capital to maintain inventory to minimize disruption. Now, creating new or similar product based on available material is now a business capability that many companies need, not only for survival, but if they do it right, this actually create a whole new edge for them. And this is actually where digital transformation can play a key role. So what I'm going to show you is actually just a simple illustration. It's like a sort of get the idea. You have like a sort of the idea how this actually all being done. And the way I'll do this is actually using something light and fun, creating a dessert. Okay, why not? I know that in some areas it's actually still fairly early, like where I'm in San Jose. But who doesn't like dessert? What we want to do is actually to be able to create dessert recipe based on the ingredients we have on hand, while minimizing the number of trial and errors. We feed the information from our suppliers, such as the fruits and the key ingredients and their cost, and then to be able to feed it into the AI algorithm, specifically computational creativity, along with a set of parameters such as taste familiarity, the look, the cost, and so forth. And the output is a recipe. So we're not talking about simply substituting, oh, this food is not available and therefore try to find another food. But here we can actually sort of talking about completely different set of materials, different number of materials, different processes, the entire recipe. Just to be clear, this is not about replacing chef, by the way. So it is actually a companion that gives them ideas on what to try, what makes sense actually to try, given that there's so many different possibilities. So driving up creativity and also speed up the process, because these are things that you want to do potentially day in, day out, or at least actually on a weekly basis or monthly, right? So let's actually. So, let's say here is actually, this chef, this is a Michelin grade chef, the opinions when we try out the ideas.
Computational creativity is the application of software tools to enhance human creativity. It's difficult to be creative all the time. It's difficult to be creative to a deadline. And essentially this is about applying AI technology to help people perform better in whatever creative process they're doing. At Accenture Labs, we developed a patent-pending prototype. And who better to test it out than the owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant? And here he is before the workshop.
I find it all quite interesting what you do, but I'm not entirely clear as to what the purpose is just yet. I'd be skeptical, but I have an open mind to it.
The thing about having Robert as an expert was it really let us explore this idea of artificial intelligence as a teammate. Using a technology as something we can collaborate with, something that can inspire us. It can help us find and explore new areas that we wouldn't have thought of going otherwise.
We learned on the day that actually the process that a Michelin star chef goes through when creating a new recipe for their menu has a lot of similarities with new food product development in fast-moving consumer goods.
So we use this the same approach with one of our clients, Procter & Gamble. So enable faster innovation for formulation of products, right? So the goal is actually to allow their formulation developers to amplify their unique talents and knowledge with AI's ability to suggest new formulation, different mix and so forth, given a sort of set of parameters, right? It's like cost and customer preference, obviously availability is the key component of that. And what actually Procter & Gamble uses this is actually to scale up their production lines, right? And to not only based on the availability of the ingredients, but also to be able to develop more tailored products for specific market segment and get this product, customized product, a lot faster than ever before. So the product set become very dynamic, allowing them to adapt at a very different speed and scale. Hope these two stories give you a sense of the benefits of digital transformation, driving new efficiencies, flexibility, new product and services, speeding up product development, improving health and safety. And you'll hear more of such a story from my fellow speakers momentarily. So what I would want to sort of close this with just, where we are going from here, right? Is this it? Basically just continuation of what actually we have been doing here, or is there something more? So let me offer a thought, starting with this physical digital loop. Now, you may actually have seen this previously. This actually quite a lot of people are using this, and one of the variation. It is actually often used to describe the automation process, right? The observe, analyze, act, right? Or you observe the physical world, analyze the data from the observation, and check what needs to be done, and then act accordingly, right? So at the high level, self-driving cars, work just like that, right? The cameras and lidar system observe the road, the traffic condition, and the information analyzed to see what's need to be done, and then act accordingly, right? So whether that sort of slowing down the cars, accelerating, or turning. Now, I'm using this same illustration to describe something different and place it in the context of digital transformation. We also use the same notion of observe, analyze, act as well, emit at the different scale. So instead of sub-second between observation and action, like in the case of self-driving cars, here we are talking about potentially days, weeks, or even months between observation to action. But the impact is also much bigger. Because we're no longer talking about cars or a piece of machine. The impact is actually could be a large multinational corporation. So if you look at the top half of this picture, this is actually a part of what Bassam mentioned, digitization process, right? That fuels many digital transformation efforts today. Turning the manual process like paper-based forms, invoices into something of the digital counterpart. But once actually in the digital format, now you can analyze the data, automate the process workflow, dispatch workers, and that's the whole digitalization process, right? So you no longer, for example, ship or fax a form. Believe me, there's some companies still using fax machines. You just transmit it electronically and let the other end to process that information. Obviously, the physical world here is not limited to documents. This could be pizza ordered, or in the case of the cruise ship, a passenger, or piece of equipment on the factory floors, where you can track the location, activities, and various other facets. All this information is captured, made available as part of the digital twin objects, which can be shared, analyzed for variety purpose, like predicting the likelihood the pizza I ordered will arrive in the next 10 minutes, or the next action a person is likely to do, or the best way to tune and optimize an equipment. All of this information can actually drive your operation all the way to creating new business model for your product and services. This is what has been discussed much in digital transformation today. Now, what actually is starting to actually emerge is the concept of digital. You can blend physical and digital world together, and these come in many forms, right? So, it could be actually as simple as a viewing digital twin of a piece of equipment right in front of the equipment itself. You can manipulate, you can actually update. And, some people actually see that actually like augmented reality, but there are many forms of that. Or you can also viewing physical world and manipulating physical world from the digital world. And there's a lot of work, especially if you talk about metaverse these days. It's like sort of a lot of components of metaverse applied to the industrial setting. It's like sort of around this space. Now, the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of the digital concept. And you don't need to see it in far, right? I'm going to use this neighborhood restaurant again because you can actually sort of see that. So whenever you go to neighborhood restaurant these days, instead of being provided with a menu, you see a QR code. Then this QR code embedded on the table. So now, if you use this QR code using your mobile phone, not only it will bring the menu, but it also includes an app. And the apps allow you to place your order, enter your instruction, right? And then, you'll be able to, and it also embedded the table information where you sit, so that when you place the order, the restaurant knows exactly which table the order should be delivered to. You can ask for a waiter if you want to, but for a large part, you can actually enjoy the restaurant's ambient, the setting, with very little interactions with the people that you're not familiar with, including the waiter. And the waiter is obviously still there to manage any exceptions, any help that you may actually need, but the overall restaurant's operation is much more efficient. You can simply pay online when you're done. And given the limited number of people in the hospitality workforce today, this process is highly welcome. Now, to complete this story, the digital to physical path at the bottom signifies the digital world, which is actually impacting the physical world, right? So this is actually where the rubber hits the road. The information in the digital world is used, for example, to manage the workforce, which workers should show up, where, when, or which route a truck driver should use. In factory, assembly lines can be reconfigured depending on where they are produced, what are they producing that day, or for retailers, what actually they can reconfigure, perhaps like the shelf or product placement dynamically based on their sales campaign and local events. Now, you actually heard all of this, I'm quite sure. But to me, it's actually the most important part for the future of digital transformation is this loop, the red loop that I'm showing here. Okay? This is a process to iterate. So once the physical changes are made, the system observes the changes to see what's actually achieved and compare them with the expected results. And if necessary, the changes are made. And so over time, the system learns what works, what does not, the iterations then continue. It could be power, the whole iteration can be power of human observations, guidance, and there's also AI. And this is actually where the investment that we're making in digital transformation continue to bear fruits for the next several years. Many organizations in digital transformation today barely made it to the first loop just yet. So what I got started as a one-time digital transformation become a continuous digital transformation, blending physical and digital worlds, allowing organization, processes, workforce, and customer interactions to be highly dynamic, flexible, and self-optimizing, whether it is in factory floors, seaports, pizza delivery, or cruise ship. Thank you. Over to you, Scott.
All right, hang tight. Let me start my video just because I didn't want to be distracting there. Okay, I'm going to open it up for conversations or questions. Please do not be shy. This is an interesting conversation. I've got a couple of questions I want to pepper you with, Edy, because it's great. I get all of this. This is wonderful stuff. It's fantastic. It's transformative. It changes businesses. It creates a resilient business and positions that business for success in the future. Got it. My question always is, is this a solution that is really focused in on big business, or can the small to mid-sized business participate and enjoy the benefits of digital transformation?
I think it's like I sort of saw that in some of the examples that we have. I think digital transformation will impact all aspects of our lives, even at the personal level. So the business, the small example that we're talking about, right? So one of the reasons I use the cruise, like Carnival, big, large enterprise and so forth, right? And then you go to the restaurants business, right? It's mom pop's restaurant there. This sector sort of the impacting. Imagine like sort of what pandemic has done to us. Like if you actually do not embrace digital transformation, very few companies actually be able to survive. And this actually sort of force us actually to make that happen. So this digital transformation will impact across the small and the large business. And fundamentally, I didn't actually get a chance to talk about this, and perhaps actually even, I don't want to go off tangent too much, but it's actually sort of also impacting the science as well, okay? Sort of fundamentally, we're doing science in the sense that, think about the pandemic. I don't want to use pandemic too much, but the whole goal is actually quite interesting. Think about, the scientists, especially in the US, will be able to actually start creating the vaccine before they even see the virus itself, for COVID virus. Okay, the reason why they can do that was actually to be able to sequence. This is the digitization process. Sequence the virus, ship it to the US, and start developing the vaccine from there. Okay, and then if you remember that loop, they'll be able to create the protein, the spike protein on the top of that, and create the vaccine that actually can then test it out before the virus actually hits here, which is the whole thing is actually sort of transforming us. So thank you to digital transformation, we may actually not think about where we are, digital transformation is actually sort of tied in the business. It's actually impact all of us. We are living through this digital transformation today.
There's a velocity that exists out there, and I don't know how to keep up with it. I know that there's, outside of the changes taking place within sort of the world itself, and then the pressures it puts on all of the, like you pointed out, the supply chain, just every aspect of our business and our lives. How nimble can digital transformation be in this particular, and how do me as a human being keep up with it, but how nimble can this digital transformation, architecture work in all of that?
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of things that we'll do, and I'm quite sure the panel will cover much of these questions. But really, to me, it's actually sort of driven by the outcomes, right? What actually you really want to do. Some of them actually could be very, very simple, right? And actually sort of there's actually sort of a strong business needs to do certain things, not just, all this big umbrella of digital transformation, which is actually a great thing, but you need to actually sort of be able to carve out into actually sort of smaller pieces that you need to actually be able to do. So here's actually, you can actually be, I'm just simply, updating or actually be able to scanning or digitizing forms, right? And so that I can actually sort of see it at home, or to be able to monitor and analyze some of the forms that we have there. There's a lot, this whole industry around just, document understanding, documents scanning and all this stuff, just to be able to confirm from physical to digital, right? and then you can start analyzing it. It's a small step in the process, but if you do it right, so think what Bassam talked about the journey, but so long that you continue to improve that journey, right, and you can see sort of step by step how to go about doing that, you're doing good, right? Because in many organizations, depending on where you are in the digital transformation, they could be still very far in the back. So you don't actually want to take this multi-year, journey to do that. It could be actually a relatively small step, and I can sort of let you trigger along. But you need to start now.
We've got a great question by Anne, and I like her last name, Vroom. Sounds fast. It's great. And this is to you, Edy, does the traveler / customer have any personal privacy options on the device? Talking about Carnival settings. Seems horrible to be tracking all that all the time on the ship you're already somewhat confined to. It's an interesting question. There's that moral component.
Absolutely.
What do you have to say?
Yeah. So you certainly have the options to be able to do that. In fact, you may not actually want to use the Medallion all times, right? It's actually really up to you. And also, so there you have an option from not wearing the Medallion at all. So that's actually sort of one option, all the way to say what actually you want to be able to track, right? It is actually up to you. And what actually the company can keep as well. So you have actually sort of notion, perhaps actually, what actually they can actually analyze for that particular experience, and then afterward they wipe it out, right? Or in some cases, there are some components that you can actually transfer from cruise to cruise, okay? It helps you out across the board. So at the end of the day, you have actually sort of that options sequence on, what actually you can keep. Just like, right now, if you look at many websites, they have this cookie setting, right, on and off and so forth. They actually have the default values, but then you can actually sort of change it as you go along. So, it provides very strong notions. Again, at the end of the day, it's about privacy versus function, right? So, you're willing to be able to trade off. You can turn off everything, but then you don't actually have much control. You have to wait in line. You have potential have to sort of go to the dining hall to see what's sort of going on there and all this stuff. So there's a lot of trade-offs that you have to sort of figure out that. But most of the time,
go ahead.
People start, like in the cruise ship, start with one set of setting, but once actually they go to the journey, they see the value, they start changing that.
To dovetail with her, what's interesting from my perspective is, and it gets down to that privacy conversation. There's data that Carnival wants to preserve because you're learning from it, right? And then there's data that improves the experience of the individual. And let's say I want to carry my Medallion because I want the full experience. Has there been a determination of what data is like, okay, that's personal, that was part of this particular trip for Scott, but we need to understand certain things, so we'll retain that. Who's the body that takes care of that?
So there is actually the whole, the governance of the within the organization, within the Carnival and team. And it's like sort of broader, there's like some of the external folks as well, sort of involved that actually sort of look at what actually sort of makes sense. There's PII information that obviously has actually sort of very well kept, and actually to make sure that things like doesn't actually go to the wrong hand. But the whole goal of this is actually to be able to maintain that to some level of abstraction. So there is I don't want to go to too much detail, but there is using AI to create different level of abstraction, a model, if you will, of you without really explaining exactly where, who you are specifically, right? So there's actually called the privacy preserving technology that actually people use to be able to actually get the data without actually revealing who that the person or group of people are. And then what actually can be used, for example, is actually sort of managing the supply chain for the cruise ship itself, right? So it's like, okay, roughly X amount of people, how many they are, and how I guess sort of they tie that together. So this actually sort of all these pieces that actually be able to do that. Now, I don't want to sort of go to all the details. I'm not part of the Carnival, so I don't want to misspeak here. but I can assure you that's actually the whole governance that I can sort of put in place to make sure that actually make sure that people are comfortable with that. So.
Yeah, I get it. I think that Anne's been hitting on a really interesting topic, and that's not just for Carnival, as is across the board for many of the companies that are entering into that digital transformation world. Now, here's another question from Anne. Do you know if Carnival sells the data it collects on the data market? Do you know if that's the case there, Edy?
I'm not sure. I do not know, but I doubt it, to be honest. We actually work with many of companies like Carnival, and I assure you that I have not actually sort of, many of our customers actually sell any of those data. This is actually very, very prestigious set of data. You actually sort of break customer trust. As soon as you do that, you're in real trouble. So
I don't know. Yeah, this is a dovetail from Anne. Do they comply with GDPR privacy requirements?
Yeah, I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure. So because you'll see this. You have to actually sort of remember what I can skip earlier is that this group of people also come from Disney, by the way. Okay, that actually come to that. And if you actually have been at Disney park, you actually sort of wear band, it's like the Disney band. It's like the same set of base concept idea, and you track the people and to make sure that people are comfortable with this, where things are or which actually games or that you want to follow, which ride and all the stuff. So and those are actually very valuable to the Disney, but it's not something that they are willing to sell. This is like selling gold there, right? So, but this is sort of something that people actually be able to see and actually also experience as well.
Is it possible for you to share with the participants on this webinar? I mean, it seems pretty advanced at Carnival's, like they push the envelope. We got all these points. We've got everything around the ship. Where are they in their sort of journey down that digital transformation? What do you see coming next within Carnival?
I think they are still, with the pandemic and so forth, right? Those sectors sort of top in mind, to be able to bring people on board. As actually you see, right now, exactly they are. I think that the last announcements that of the 23 ships that they have running, 22 is actually operational at the moment. It's actually to make sure that they are focusing on making sure people are comfortable coming into the cruise, right? So again, it's actually go the trade-off between the privacy and so forth. We want to be able to track the people, the density, and all the stuff, right? Without really, make it all personal identifiable there. But this actually sort of these are really the focus. Making sure that people are comfortable coming back to the cruise ship and get the experience that they have.
The restaurant example, I was very fortunate to be able to experience that restaurant and ordered the food, all of that stuff, and it just came out and it's pretty efficient. I like it. Yeah. One last question. We've got Michael Helgner. Now, I hope I said that right, Michael. Don't kill me. In addition to digital twin of the asset, there needs to be some coordinating, concerting instance to manage these digital representatives. Getting the instance, don't know if the term middleware is applicable here. Is it probably the largest challenge? Any recommendations here? I hope that was clear. Did you understand that?
Yeah. So I want to actually call myself a digital twin expert here. There's actually quite a bit of companies that are working in this space. But you're absolutely right. I mean, digital twin, is interesting concept that actually many people embrace. But the scope of digital twin is a very broad one, right? So think about the just a simple. Take an airplane or cruise ship, right? So sort of a complex piece of equipment. You actually want to be able to model that piece of, parts of it is actually a digital model itself, but it's like a part of a bigger, bigger parts, if you will, right? And actually who actually owns what, who actually have managed what, how to actually sort of evolve that. It's not just about the middleware per se, but it's actually sort of the whole semantic representation of digital twin, right? So that's actually why that need actually to be have like a sort of some level of standardization as well. So you have a common lingua franca to talk about what digital twins and what actually sort of makes sense. And also there's a lot of things that the whole governance across the digital twin, the data, who I got to share with, and all the stuff. So the dynamic component of that. So who owns that? Like, for example, a design of an equipment is actually part of the digital twin, and the dynamic across it with that is actually typically part of the manufacturer, or perhaps like a sort of a trade secret as well. But you need actually to understand all the dynamics there. How are you going to share? How are you going to be able to evolve that and all those stuff? There's still a whole lot of questions that actually need to get done. So I don't think that this is actually done in any in any way, but there's actually still quite a bit of work. But it does not mean that we need to stop working until all of this actually sorted out, because you can actually define the scope and actually have sort of agreement across the board, while actually the standard bodies and so forth actually sort of working on that to make it all work together.
Anne and Michael, thank you very much for asking your questions. It's an exciting time. I hear it in your voice there, Edy. And it's a good segue to begin talking more about other use cases. And Daniel Young, you're up, and you're going to be talking. This is Daniel Young, Senior Manager at Toshiba American. We're